who has been in as many mental hospitals as I have a lot of stories. Some good, some bad, some worth telling, some not worth telling. I'm gonna tell you the juicy ones. Juicy. As juicy as you can get in a mental hospital. Okay, so start off. The first time I ever had sex with a man was in a mental hospital. I was a teenager in the adult ward. Usually they put me in the pediatric ward, but this time I had been put in the adult ward, so I was like the baby. And there was this one guy. He was very shy. I think he was in there for drug problems. And he wrote me a note, and it said, "Do you like green eyes?" And I thought to myself, well, okay, I have green eyes. Of course I like green eyes. So then I passed the note back to him. This was during lunchtime, so we were all eating. And I get another note from the same guy, and it says, "Do you like me?" And I was like, who wrote this note? Does anybody know who wrote this note? And somebody said, "Oh, that guy over there did." And I was like, "Hey, you, do you want to fuck?" And he was like, he looked at me like, "What?" And I was like, "Do you want to fuck?" And he was like, "Yeah." So we snuck off to the bathroom and did it. Very romantic. That's so weird. Anyway, I was with a girl this one time. I didn't get a lot of action, just a lot of touchy-feely, but nothing too serious. That same time, because my roommate was a girl, they put all the males and the females in separate wards for whatever reason. I mean, it's like I'm gay anyway, so it's not like you're gonna stop me from having sex with other people. And they put me with a lesbian. So I'm thinking, well, what's the point? But anyway, she was really cool. We didn't get too far, but I came as she was leaving. What else? The guy who I had sex with that one time, I ended up meeting his friend the next time I went into the mental hospital, because I go there a lot. And we made out. We were gonna do it, and we got caught in the bathroom. So that didn't work out. They were like, "Naughty, naughty Maya." Everybody in the ward knows that I can't be trusted. If they see me alone with somebody, there's gonna be trouble. Another time, on my last day at a ward, I met this girl. It's always on the last days that I meet all the hot girls. And she was like, "Oh, you're super cute." And I was like, "Thank you." I was like, "You want to go back to our room?" I didn't have a room because I was leaving. She was new, so we went to her room. Needless to say, we got caught again, but we were already like, so we got in trouble. I didn't get in that much trouble because I was on my way out anyway, but I don't know what happened to her. I told her I'd call her, but I always tell them I'll call them and I don't call. What else? There was another guy. We went off to the bathroom, except we really did it for real. And a lot of these guys are in for drug problems. The ones with illnesses like they don't really seem to be interested. They're usually in their own world. You know, you think you're Jesus or something like that. So I usually associate with the people with the drug problems, the alcoholics. They're the ones who are really horny all the time. And I'm really horny all the time because I'm still young. Every single time that I'm in a hospital, except for one time, I have sex with somebody. And except for when I was in the pediatric ward, when I was in the little kid one. You're not allowed to be alone with a boy in the pediatric ward. And I thought that was a weird rule. I could only be alone with girls. But back then I identified as a lesbian, so I was like, well, okay, if you say so. But yeah, there's probably a bunch of other stories. The thing is, when I'm in the hospital, I don't remember a lot because I'm usually in a psychotic state. So I only remember bits and pieces. But I've had a lot of hookups. I think I get more action in the hospital than out because, I don't know, there's no need to break the ice and talk about my illness. Everybody's sick there. So it's just easier to make friends, I've noticed. Because everybody's crazy. So you don't even have to talk about that. We can just skip to that. Plus, there's nothing to do. It's so boring. It is so boring that you get bored and do what humans do. So there's that. And, you know, a lot of the time you're on medication. They give you all different kinds of medication, and that messes with your head too. So yeah, that, I have so many stories, but I don't know which ones to tell you. I ended up bumping into that guy, the first guy I ever did it with. One time I was in the emergency room. It was before I went to the ward. And I bumped into him and I was like, "What are you doing here?" And he was like, "Who are you?" And then I was like, "Remember we hooked up?" And he was like, "Oh yeah." And then there was this other time where I went to the ward and I recognized one of the guys. And we both locked eyes. I didn't recognize him immediately. I was just like, I've seen that face before somewhere. And then when I was going to bed that night, it hit me. I was like, oh yeah, I sucked his dick that time. And so I was like, could you go call... I asked my roommate, could you go call him? And because I wanted to know his name. And it turned out his name was Mark. And I was like, oh, Mark, okay. So then the next time I saw him, he was with a bunch of nurses, and they were talking about his plan and how he was going to get better, and he was going to go to rehab. And he walks by, and he's like, I know you from somewhere. And I was like, yeah, I sucked your dick that one time. We had fun. And then I kept walking, and he just paused. The nurses were looking at me like, Maya. The nurses know me, so. And I told them what I do. I told the night nurse, I was like, every time I'm here, I have sex with somebody. And he was just like, oh, thanks for telling me that. Because when it gets late and it's night, they lock up all the boys' rooms. They locked up all the rooms because of me. They didn't want me going in there, sneaking in there at night. The girls were fine, but they locked every boy's door, and I was like, you can do that, but I'll find a way. I'm like water, I always find a way. And they were like, fine, but it's regulation, so we have to do this. So yeah, that's a couple of times I hooked up in the hospital. Lost my virginity in a mental hospital. There's really nothing to do there, so you get bored. You ever have sex when you're bored? You know, you're just bored, you need to pass the time. It's a good way to pass the time. But yeah, that's some of my stories. I don't know if anybody'd want to hear the other ones. I have some really gay stories. And gay as in like lesbian gay, not gay as in bad. I don't use that. But yeah, I'm not YouTube famous, so nobody's really seeing my video, so I don't know. Anyway, I'll post more videos because this feels good. This feels therapeutic to me, talking about it, because I'm just talking to a camera. So you'll see me again in my next video. Toodaloo.